Okay.
Here.
Hi, Michelle. I'm so pleased that we could do this today.
I'm really happy that we're here. It's sort of slightly daunting that it's become a bit more formalised, but because I've just got used to speaking to you in all sorts of states, you know, like recently just speaking to you from my bed, quite dishevelled, and being able to have a kind of trust or intimacy in being able to talk to you at any time, maybe kind of precipitated by the situation with lockdown, but it's funny now that we're here in this setting.
I think any opportunity to see my God, in inverted commas, child, Ren, who arrived earlier this year. So that is like a major part of my day, if I can see her.
5 months today, Jade. 5 months. And what did I want to show you? I wanted to show you something. There's a little wren on this farthing.
Oh,
see that?
That's so sweet.
Yeah, that was not quite the reason why she's named Wren, but it was sort of, I had that around my neck for a while. So thinking about that little bird. So how are you today?
I'm good. I'm quite tired. Thank you. I yesterday, for instance, 10 minutes into my therapy session at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I just had to say, sorry, I have to immediately go to sleep. Yeah, I was so tired. So I did that. It's been really great us meeting, but I think we have been working really intensely over this last period, and I think it just catches up with me at sort of inopportune moments, but actually with really, really understanding people. And I think that what's happened during lockdown for me is that we've established really tight networks, and I've personally been blessed with a real strong support and love and care, and it's something very special and really wonderful. And actually we've been able to work together and complete what brought us together, which was writing a text around our experiences of as artists working under sort of these conditions that impose how structural racism and institutional racism impacts us on a daily basis. And it feels maybe some of the exhaustion I'm feeling now is very different from the exhaustion that I felt at the beginning when I was having multiple breakdowns when we were first meeting. So it's testimony to our friendship and our commitments to one another and what we're working on together, that I'm feeling a different type of exhaustion that is one that we share as well, because we've never experienced lockdown before, and never experienced a global movement that addresses exactly the things that we were that I was, I had my spiel at the beginning, which was I really needed everyone to be up to speed with things that we were experiencing and were really traumatic, because they were impeding our ability to not just work but communicate with one another. So I think that this stage now, where I'm really prioritizing making yoga with my yoga teacher, who has been, up until a couple of weeks ago, providing yoga every day for the community for free. She's also been, along with other people, making masks. I think they've made in excess of 800 masks for our local hospital. And I think that, yeah, now it feels like, although I'm working really hard that and want to, that it's a different type of resting whilst we work on resources, but that's still quite the daunting prospect.
Yeah.
But I think maybe with that in mind, if I can, I haven't actually introduced you, but I think that I've skirted around how we came to work together, and I wondered if you might, in relation to our meeting and what we've been working on together, might speak a little bit about fictional activism.
Sure. I was actually trying to get my thoughts together before we spoke, that when we met, I think it was the summer of 2018, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was around August, we came together with a desire to try to articulate certain lived injustices. I'm not going to go into them all. Very recently, we've managed, with a collaboration with Cecilia to begin to really spit it out now, and we've published something in Arts Professional. That aside, in my own practice as a artist working with moving image, performance and installation, I stumbled across, or in my love of language, I came across this idea of fictional activism, and I really would admit that it just sounds catchy on one level, but then I've worked really hard to try to flesh that out. It's okay to say that, but I wanted to try to understand why, alongside my very real activism, let's say the activism of letter writing, or standing on a picket, or listening, and working with individuals or groups to try to make things change in society. I wanted fictional activism to work parallel to that, but do things through a fictional vessel. So the recent works that I've been looking at are very much inspired by studio films from the 20th century, specifically British and Hollywood films. A great deal of those films, I would say, were made under a really colonial imperialist gaze, and I'm very interested in revisiting characters and actors, specifically those who are of colour, that were not fully afforded the space to really live their full potential as actors. And so I've been looking at Sabu, who was an American actor but was born in India, who was really known for things like the black and white film version of the Jungle Book from 1937. He was in Powell and Pressburger's Black Narcissus. He was a Thief of Baghdad. He really was Hollywood's go-to brown body. And in a way, I've allied myself to this actor and tried really hard to write a new possibility for him, because where I find a connection with Sabu is I have felt for too long a kind of glass ceiling within the arts and in the cultural spaces that I work in, and I utterly could empathise with that position, and I wanted to as I said in my solo show last year at Tintype, I saw him as a distant relative, someone that was kin to me, even though we're, you know, not connected. I knew, and there's something that I see in your work with Josephine Baker that does a similar thing. So I will answer a bit more about fictional activism, but I just wanted to say that when I look at your work, and I was really moved when I read in some of your writing that you were thinking about the way cultural production scars bodies and constructs histories as this similar thing. It's like, how do we move through space? How does that affect who we are? Because as we move through that space, we can't shirk who we are in that process. And how does that interaction get documented and recorded, and how does that make a history or herstory over time? And I'm still at a space where I will fight really hard for our place within history, you know. So that's where some of fictional activism kicks in. I'll say more in a bit, but I wanted to just say Josephine Baker seems like she's part of that process too.
I was wondering, when you're talking about Sabu and family, and also how you like when you visit Sabu's grave, how you're honouring a memory, but this idea also of being bound together now for life, that it's not, I don't know, I'm veering off, but I wonder how, when we sort of divide our work into projects through commissions, etc., that actually what the suggestion or the motive or the proposition of Sabu being, and you mentioned the word yesterday, resuscitation, but this idea of resuscitating a spirit, maybe. But also I speak about really, I feel really callous when I say it like this, but about Josephine Baker as material. But she gives me the freedom or the license to make, and make in reference to her, but also in a certain spirit. And I wonder about us, an analogy with vessels as well here, that we're a vessel or a container for these incredible spirits. And I hadn't expected to say spirits so much today or at all, but I wonder if that's something that does, that is really guiding us, that, you know, back, yeah, and that bond that can be available to any one of us anywhere, given access or resources or something.
I think so. I mean, if we take Josephine Baker and Sabu just as two examples, they're individuals with huge talents that have, you know, really it's by virtue of that talent that they were pushed to the fore, but they're also operating in the earlier part of the 20th century. And within that, there's a kind of structural mechanism at play that, you know, does two things. It simultaneously pushes them to the fore and also contains and inhibits and restricts certain, I would say their full potential. And I think that somehow there's something in that I identify with, and I think the whole point of the fictionally activist films are that I am using I'm using the 21st century to articulate alongside them. I don't want to specifically put words into Sabu's mouth, but like you say, about feeling a bit uncomfortable with being callous about calling Josephine Baker material. Similarly, the vessel of Sabu allows me to revisit the historical injustices, essentially, that took place, and to find a way to talk back to those inequalities. And I think that's sort of, I think in the crux of the making is that speculative possibility, you know, the speculation that what if we could alter the course of history through writing a new script, or what if our letter that we've been writing with Cecilia and other artists actually starts to shake an infrastructure to the point of affecting change. So I think at the heart of maybe our connection is a connection to language and to writing, which I see so much in your work, not least through the drawings and the kind of larger scale charcoal installations, where you are literally, for me, if we've used the word spirit, we can also use the word invocation. But you're basically, whenever I read those texts, I feel that they are, there's something that it feels like it's something from a primal space of a rage or a roar or a rally or a call to arms. Like, I think that there's something that you do in those drawings that become installations that literally bring words off a page and into, you know, an arena we can walk in. Or
yeah, thank you. I was wondering actually then about publishing and about back to your fictional activism, and how it features in a book called, what's that beautiful publication called?
One that I have here by any chance?
Yeah, no, I haven't even seen that one. No,
I'll post this to you, Jade.
Another one.
Yeah. Busy.
No, it's like got green. It's got green specks on the cover, maybe, and it's about
the decolonizing book. That's green.
No,
I don't know.
It was like Fandom.
Oh, Fandom is Methodology. Brilliant book. Yeah, I can see it in the corner of the room, but I'd have to like leave the screen to get it. Yeah, it's by Kate Random Love and Catherine Grant, who edited the collection. But yeah.
Yeah, it struck me as great for bringing these ideas together. I haven't got a copy yet, but I will, and be able, because it seems in the same sort of, it's containing as a sort of anthology of different approaches to essentially maybe fictional activism or towards that, when you, because it's not idolatry of someone, and it's not necessarily replicate or trying to copy or something. Fandom is something very different.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I wonder about that term, to stan. I'm really rubbish with my language, but
I don't think so.
I get a little bit embarrassed. I haven't used it yet.
Well, I'm going to just say I brought a few things that I carry this around with me, by the way, and you have now that we're not travelling on the tube, it seems a strange situation, but my dear friend, I know that you and you alone possess peace. You can't imagine how much comfort that brought to me commuting through the city, and to then find out the kind of backstory behind the work, which I think you do a better job of explaining. But it just, I think there's something in the words, and I think this is, you know, something that I want to think about more broadly with artists, is how we use language and how that might also have a kind of lived emotional resonance. That, you know, there's a lot of history in including pain in the language, and longing and speculation, and I think the writing also becomes somewhat unbridled because we're not trained specifically to write. For me, the last few years, something has happened, whether you want to call that courage or not even caring anymore, but just trying to say something and allowing in an inhibition with writing to fall away. So I think there was a turning point for me. I thought, I don't know if this is useful, Jade. I rewrote an alphabet, and I thought I could just read it to you.
Yes, please.
And then, and I think the reason I did that for a film that started off called Casting Country, but then became House of Women. But it starts with Anne is African, Bill is bisexual, Caroline is a cartographer, David is from Darjeeling, Edward is in Egypt, Freddie is female, Grace is a guy, Henry speaks Hindi, Ian is intersex, John is David, Kitty loves Kwaito, Lucy loves Lucy, Mary is a masochist, Nancy knows Nehru, Oliver is open, Peter is Pan, Queenie is questioning, Robert has rabies, Simon is Sinhalese, Tommy is Tamil, Ursula is undecided, Vera visits Venus, William is worldly, Zena dabbles in xenomancy, Yolanda says yes, and Zachary is a zealot.
Love that. No way.
What's that?
This is in your new book.
Well, this book is a wonderful compilation called Feminist Art, Activisms and Artivisms, and it was led by Middlesex University and the Liz Press, but I've got a chapter in there. But the point about reading that alphabet to you was one day, and I think this was in 2014, I happened to look at my eldest daughter Julia's poster in her bedroom, and it had an alphabet with the kind of rote thing that we've learnt all these years of A is for apple, you know, and B is for ball. And then I just wanted to smash it all up and rewrite an alphabet that interrogated gender, questioned colonial spoon-fed tropes, made us think about even names and class, and, you know, replacing all of those names with names of people that could belong to other spaces other than what we've had in history books for years, you know. So
I love this. That I've been asked actually I was nominated by Francis Scott, who I went to university with, to create this print that DAX are doing. Have you heard of it?
No.
Oh no. So I can then nominate 2 people. So perhaps you could, I'm going to nominate you, and I thought I was going to be doing that anyway. But imagine if you heard a print of
this. Yeah, it would be a lovely thing. It would be a wonderful thing, and I should do it. But yeah, just this idea. I guess I'm trying to say, answering your question in a really long way. Fictional activism tries to not repeat structurally lazy things that get repeated. So that might be film, that might be an alphabet, that might be things that we have been regurgitating for years. And in our collaboration, I feel like we're putting a full stop to some of those lazy repetitions.
Yeah, I wondered, because I watched a really alarming, I found it alarming, David Starkey with that guy from Durham. Have you seen this?
I haven't seen it, but was it on iPlayer or something?
Yeah, and I just think, we didn't have a television growing up, because we didn't have mains electricity, or terrestrial television. But I remember David Starkey being a big name and sort of canonical in the approach and really accepted, even though, yeah, there's lots to say about David Starkey, but he sparked fury by saying slavery was not genocide, as, quote, so many damn blacks survived. And I wonder that maybe what we've been working on is something that we really wanted to have a wider reach than just the way that we make work, because we're not heard necessarily in our workplaces when we're talking about structural problems, and I think that that's something that really I find a big hurdle, just in the approach. You know, how do we approach, and do we need to have a wider reach? Like, are we talking only amongst ourselves, and why, when our industry is tied to politics like bread and butter? So I just, yeah, I'm interested in fictional activism as a practice and as potential methodology, and how that relates to whether it's contained within an art context. But no, you're suggesting that it goes further than that.
Yeah, it's too early for me to say, but I just know that I suppose we could take any object and dismantle it, like so many, you know, if we've had Colston's ceremonious overthrow, there's this need to possibly reappraise so many things that we've been spoon-fed for years. That's the feeling. And then if fictional activism becomes a thing, let's say, it's for us to actually fill in new knowledge in the gaps. And that's why, you know, like when I look at this work, I understand that, you know, the title of the works, Hand This Piece to One Jacob Aston West, born approximately 1941 to 43 Montserrat. And I understand that that's a massive question mark around your biological father, and around even his possible movement through the city of London, you know. And I just, I think that's a living example then of a fictionally activist.
Okay.
Because you're filling in the gaps of the what if, or the what could have been, you know. I could be, yeah, please correct me if I'm wrong, but
I see. That's it, exactly. I'm trying to fill in the gaps.
And that's why it's sort of, without even knowing that story, your words are far from, they do touch me, because they act as a kind of balm, you know, because I think that there are people in the city that need a friend, you know, like, and I think that out of all of this, there's been a kindness in working with you, with Cecilia, with some of our other collaborators that we've been close with over the last year. And what has come about is a kind of new familial structure, which in an industry which is probably perpetuated a much more individualistic way of operating, or at least that's what I was told as I went through art school, was, you know, you're going to have to make something of yourself, and, you know, you're going, that seems to really be, it may never go away, but something has changed in how I'm connecting with people. Collaboration still feels as essential as it has always been, but now, even if that makes it sound nostalgic or romantic or complicates things, there is a possibility of a kind of newer familial structure based on kindness, because we're choosing who we want to work with, you know, and that's such a gift. So
yeah, artists, I suppose that's the nature of that career prospect, so to speak, is that it is potentially about rebelling and or rebellion in some way, and I suppose that could lead us into We the Ungovernable in Venice, where we were last year together with your family before little Ren came along. And I wonder, with that as well, like how effective for what the reverberations of something, or actually just at sort of a base level, going to Venice, like this idea that I wonder what your thoughts are, just briefly, around artists sort of demanding change in the way that our work is shown, and the ecology around that, or how we come together to meet one another, as in any case we might have been considering with more rapidity as we face sort of ecological or climate catastrophe.
I think half of the time I'm very aware of how small we are, you know, but I absolutely believe that I've always believed in our kind of capacity to affect change in smaller groups, and that kind of deeper change, because it's really about a kind of the word that we both use a lot, Jade, reciprocity of an encounter between people. I think that those words touch people, and then it's the job then is on the person that's received that to spread the word. I think that I'm so sure that, you know, art saved my life. Like I just know it, and I don't try as I will to try to run away from it, which I've stopped doing. But if, you know, there's no other space for me, and I just would love a government that really centered the arts. I'm nervous now because of coronavirus. I read some possible teaching documents saying that, you know, in secondary schools and potentially primary schools, all non-essential subjects will be taken off the curricula. I mean, this is speculation at this point, but if that's the case, I know that might well include art, which to me is a complete tragedy, because it's utterly essential. It's essential that we just conjure little dreams, you know, because I think we're really in a hopeless place without art, and that's why you know, I talk about these words as a balm, you know, traveling late around you know, around London and seeing this at King's Cross Station, which is where I did. It's like it touches you, and that's, I think the thing that happened in Venice was we were there because we were part of an event, a PhD event called Fight the Power, We the Ungovernable, and it was important to see how artistic research is fighting for change, but we need to be given more autonomy and more say, and that would really take a kind of shake up of a system that I think at the minute uses artists as an add-on or a folly or as entertainment or as cultural capital.
Yeah. I also wonder if part of it is that there's because we never ever have any money and never ever have any power. I wonder if it is widely accepted that we chug along. We are going to keep making this stuff despite what anyone does, and that's known and it's taken advantage of. And I wonder if, like with the tube map, for instance, that is some crazy statistic, like the second largest print run after the postage stamp. So it becomes ephemera. It becomes throwaway. It's not precious. And what I think or hope I'm advocating for is that creativity, like you say, is at the center of everything. Like if everyone's been at home with the lockdown, watching films, television programs, listening to music, reading literature made by artists, surrounded by designed goods that have been designed presumably using some sort of pencil or software that replicates a pencil. And I think that, yeah, obviously it's really blind, but also the figures are considerably, what I can see, greater than like football or anything else that people are going on about. Like our industry brings in so much money, and the problem is that art has been monetarized, and with this individualism, etc. But I think that what I'm advocating is that, like, what the needs that I'm establishing, I need my garden, I need to feel grounded, earthed, I need to feel that I can get dirty in my garden. I need to have surroundings that are made with certain natural materials. I need to eat really fresh food, and I need to have certain materials next to my skin. These basic things, there's an artistry to it, to living, and I just believe that it shouldn't be this exclusive domain. Like I believe that maybe, even though it's probably really wanky to say it, but I'm trying to live the art that I'm making, and aside and integrated to that is that sometimes I find the time, or somebody gives me money to make what I really want to make, which is mostly paintings, but I haven't got there yet. I had to go through various stages of undress before I'm able to make some paintings. And I wonder, I wonder if you've got anything in response to that. I suppose I think I've veered off.
No, you haven't, because you actually cracked it. It's just that I just wish it was as simple as, you know, you cracked it. We are surrounded by culture, contributed by incredible authors, poets, filmmakers, designers, artists, architects, and all of that is consumed, but is it truly valued? Like, is it really, you know, and I don't, and at present it isn't, and it needs to be a shift in thinking, and what we've been calling for even in our collective letter is hand over some of that power, you know, give us a space and give us autonomy, give us some money. On a personal level, I want to make feature films, you know, I want to make, I also want to just make films where I'm not scraping the funds together, but that it just, like you say, various states of undress and various indignities to be able to make the thing that we love doing. It seems barbaric that, you know, in our late 30s and early 40s, which is where we're at, how is it that we're, you know, as precarious as we are, but at the same time, I just don't know how else to be. And I know that we have to just keep on asking for change. And I think that really the question of greed or individualism has to bow down a bit to a bigger movement that's coming. But I could just sound horribly naive here, and I don't want to be. I want to say that there has to be a sea change in thinking, but I need that to, I need art to stop being seen as this periphery, additional, non-essential subject. It's still a massive concern that every year we have to fight for art to be embedded within a curriculum, and I worry that it could so easily be taken away in place of business, or, you know.
But I believe that the people that sort of invest in the art and sort of, when I look at top tier boards of directors who are all into the financialization, who are linked to how our children learn, you know, I don't think they really understand what the potential of art. I really think that they look at art as, if in a really basic way, say we were to think about Damien Hirst, who's really famous and really rich and draws in really big crowds, and apparently, and I just wonder if you're blinded by that and you've got the power to put on that show, why would you be thinking outside of that? I honestly am not quite sure, because so our art classes as well were like sort of, it was always the DOS subject, because, well, I just don't know. I mean, my art classes were horrific. I had boys who were not able to express themselves.
Yeah.
And were going through puberty or whatever, and they were like chasing me around with staple guns and things like that, and then like pushing the art teacher into the dark room for the whole class, so you couldn't access him because he was on some sort of swan song, but also, I don't know, I felt sorry for him, obviously, that he was locked in the cupboards for the art classes, but equally he didn't really.
Yeah, no.
And I just wonder where it is that we're losing this, the vitality and the urgency.
Maybe we have to also shift the emphasis and lobby for things like that. You know, lobby for not relegating the arts outside. You know, can we do that?
I don't know where the sort of lobbying, like the sort of aggressive lobbying that's required to advocate for what we've established a real needs and creativity. Nothing can exist without that space for our imaginations to grow, and that's linked with all our social services and things like or everything. It's all interconnected, and it just feels that at the moment there's sort of almost cherry picking of essentials in favour of sort of strategies or strategic thinking that doesn't help you and I or those that we care about.
Yeah, I totally agreed. We're asking for realignment, and we're asking for more parity at the very least, but that's at this moment feels a long way off. But alongside lobbying, we've got to build more spaces that are ours to offer alternatives to spaces that can't provide that kind of thinking. That's the next step, but that's a whole other conversation. But
and we have to abolish the police.
Yes, please. Find some other. We have a power structure at play that's inhibiting society, and that's really. And I know that artists can make a change. It's just that we either take it or we push harder to be heard, But maybe we should stop there.
Yeah, I'm advocating the push harder, but then I'm trained in that. Yeah,
no, and I've learned a lot from you from that, and I think we have to give it a go. It's just it comes at a time where we're also bloody exhausted. So that next thing we have to do is push through the exhaustion to push harder. So, which we can do. We've been doing it for years anyway.
Yeah, and our next instalment will be From Our Gardens.
I hope so.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Michelle.
Good to speak to you as always.
Thank you.
Okay.